What's up, everybody, and welcome to this Week 13 edition of the Swolecast. I'm David Kitchen. Hopefully this works. We'll be uploading it later via podcast and video. Want to quickly give a shout-out to Al Zeidenfeld, whose mom passed away this week. It was expected, but still not easy. Al is a vital part of this community. We want to make sure that he knows that we're all thinking about him, so reach out to him via Twitter, send him a note, just let him know that we got him. The second thing is, wanted to shout out to Peter Overzet. He leads the Fantasy Football Comedy Hour. Also did the production for the Fantasyland podcast with RotoViz. He did a Swolecast audition tape that is pretty amazing. And if you see Tuttle actually, he didn't have like the dim lighting for Tuttle, but his costume for Tuttle is spot on. And the broadcast was easy available via YouTube. There were no technical problems in listening or watching to it, so he didn't nail that part either. Right. He had to have some technical difficulties. That's just a part. He did have, like, for me, he had like two laptops in the background. He bought a bucket hat and a Jeff Janis shirt for you, Davis.
Dude, the Silva St. Louis Cardinals picture.
Yeah, he found the Busch Stadium picture.
That was the best.
Yeah. So it was pretty amazing, the level of detail and how, and he nailed like every part of it.
He's just a really talented individual.
Yeah, he is. He's very, very talented. All right, let's get quickly on to Week 13 and the overview roster construction. Let's talk about, basically, you've got two really expensive running backs in Lev Bell and David Johnson. You've got Jordan Howard. You've got a couple other guys, and you got some pretty cheap wide receivers in some decent spots. You've also have hashtag Barkley and Cash, at least on FanDuel. And now we might have another cheap QB in cash, Paxton Lynch. Silva? Huh?
I mean,
hashtag Paxton Cash?
I think if you want to play one of those guys on FanDuel, then you play Barkley because his matchup is a lot better than Paxton Lynch's. The Jaguars have a pretty solid pass defense, have only allowed one opposing passer this year to go over 280 passing yards. Paxton Lynch did not look good in his first start against an inferior defense at home against Atlanta. Now he's on the road against Jacksonville. Barkley did look pretty good last week. The Bears ran no huddle offense with him. I mean, they had the full playbook for him. One of the concerns is weather, though. In Chicago, it's supposed to be snowing, and we'll see about the wind. That's the primary concern. But I mean, I'm going to play Drew Brees and not play Paxton Lynch and Matt Barkley personally.
Yeah, that means you got to have some value plays. Davis,
yeah, you do, and there are some good value plays.
Yeah. What's your take on like wide receiver, Davis?
Well, I think you need to choose one of the top four guys to really go overweight on in tournaments. Brown, Evans, Julio, Beckham. A lot of people are on Julio. I personally believe that Evans is the best one of them. But in cash, I think the most expensive wide receiver I plan on using is Michael Thomas, using one of the Detroit value wide receivers, and then really going down to find a third guy. On DraftKings, it'd be like Tyreek Hill. On FanDuel, I have not quite solved the equation on what to do in that spot yet.
Tuttle?
Yeah. I mean, I want to hear Davis's. I don't get Davis's distaste for Julio.
There's no distaste. I just like Evans better. Evans is a more consistent fantasy performer. Julio has had 3 weeks this season where he hasn't even finished as a wide receiver 60. He's less involved in the red zone offense for Atlanta, and I don't see it as a mortal lock that he sees zero coverage on Peters and it's all gains. It's totally possible, and I think Julio's a great play. I've moved him up to my third wide receiver behind Antonio Brown and Evans after looking at it, but I think those guys are clearly the best.
Yeah, I think Julio eats. He's the guy I'm paying up for if I'm paying up at wide receiver. The value options are interesting this week in the sense that I think the chalk's probably going to be Marcus Wilson on both sides.
It could be, yeah.
And all we're going to see on Sunday is David and Drew tweet about Marcus Wilson back and forth, and it's going to be terrible.
Oh, and it's going to be Tuttle. I can't believe Drew and David are tweeting about Marcus Wilson.
Marcus Wilson is a GOAT. I discovered Marcus Wilson.
Yeah. And I was
It's
second.
going to be like
I'm the one who
over
told Dink
under
to play
20 tweets combined between Kitchen and Dink.
Or three. Let's move on to the overall construction, starting with DraftKings. We'll do a lineup, then talk about the old QB. So Silva, you start us off.
Russell Wilson.
Ooh, I like it. People got bit by recency bias. People that had Russ, Baldwin, and Rawls last week.
I think he's a really, really good bet to bounce back. The Panthers are with their top outside pass rusher, Mario Addison, leads the team in sacks with 9, and they are really vulnerable up the middle, which is where Baldwin and Jimmy Graham primarily play, without Luke Kuechly and Kurt Coleman, one of their big communicators in the back end of their playmaking safety. So they are vulnerable in the areas of the field where the Seahawks have the most talent.
I'm going to go ahead and take my pick, and we're just going to make this a semi-onslaught with Baldwin and Graham.
That'll work.
Davis?
So if we have Baldwin, Graham, and Russ, I guess, David Johnson. I'm just going to stay true to my brand.
Nice. I'm going to go with Dorial Green-Beckham.
Yeah, love it. Love it, buddy.
He's had 18 targets the past 2 weeks, and there are still people that are like, I can't play him. Well, he's stone minimum at 3K, and there's like the potential that even J-Matt doesn't play this week. He got hurt in the first half last week. Like those targets have to go somewhere, even if he drops half of them. We saw Marcus Wilson last week.
Well, he's not the one who drops them. Aguilar's the one who drops them.
All right. He's dropped a few in Tennessee.
Well, sure, he's not very good.
Okay. Evan?
Jamison Crowder.
Ooh.
I'm seeing no one is on any Washington guys after Kirk just had 450 passing yards. Like, people are not on these guys.
They are. Just on the tight end, Vernon Davis. He's the only guy people have really been talking about.
The receivers that have been able to produce against Arizona's defense have been interior receivers. Last week, Mohamed Sanu, Taylor Gabriel, and Justin Hardy combined for 14 catches, almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, primarily doing their damage on the interior. Mohamed Sanu had 8 catches against them. Tyrann Mathieu was out. The Cardinals are going to be using as their slot defender, a guy that they're pulling off injured reserve designated for return, hasn't played in 2 months. Tyvon Branch was good early in the season, but who knows if these guys usually aren't in football shape. He's coming off of sports hernia surgery. So Jamison Crowder had a good matchup even before Tyrann Mathieu was out.
All right, Tuttle?
Do we want to chalk this up, or do we want to YOLO? I think the chalk approach here would be like a Jeremy Hill and DeAndre Hopkins.
How is no? People can't be serious about Hopkins.
He's so cheap.
He's so cheap.
He's still getting targets, and he's playing the Green Bay secondary.
That would be the quote unquote chalk way to fill this.
All right. Well, we're not winning a tournament with DeAndre Hopkins.
All right. Well,
I just locked in a 35 pointer.
The old Mattek mush for that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if I'm YOLOing and just going a guy that's completely unpredictable, it'd be Marvin Jones.
I'm down with Marvin Jones or Tate in this lineup.
There are significant health concerns with Marvin Jones right now.
I'm down with Tate in this lineup.
Yeah, me too. Did Jones miss Friday's practice too?
No, but the multiple beat writers have expressed concern about his health. They think he's going to play, but that he's not 100%. I was on him big time early in the week, but the beat writer reports have kind of. I mean, look, he's a tournament player. We're building a tournament lineup. If you want to run him, that's fine.
No, let's go Tate, Hill, Washington D. That rounds it out really well.
Yeah, or you could go Tate and James Starks.
No.
I don't understand.
I don't know why we would do that.
Why would we play James Starks?
Redskins D over Jaguars D.
They get to play.
I'm all about Jags.
I got Jags.
Tuttle? Good to hear.
I'm all in. Washington D. Might even play him on FanDuel.
Why?
I'm tired of not profiting over how bad Carson Palmer is. I need to get some exposure to Carson Palmer and Bruce Arians being the worst.
But okay.
I'm going to go ahead and play DeAndre Hopkins over Tate, though, just because Davis is locked in.
I did. I locked in the massive game.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about QBs, the top QBs for cash that we have. Tuttle, we'll start with you.
I'll start with the guy that Evan picked. I think Russell Wilson is in play on both sides because of his salary, especially on FanDuel. He comes at a very nice discount to Drew Brees, who everybody's probably going to be on DraftKings. But I think on FanDuel, it makes sense to dip down to the Russell Wilsons of the world. DraftKings that just mentioned, Drew Brees is probably going to be the chalk there. You can fit him in. But if you're going to go and look to save money on a quarterback on DraftKings, I don't hate, going down to a guy like Tyrod Taylor, who continues to give you a rushing floor. With his rushing touchdowns and attempts. He's had, 7 attempts or so every game for the last 5 weeks. So, yeah, Tyrod Taylor's probably the lowest I'll go at quarterback, but Breeze is probably the chalk.
What about Aaron Rodgers on DK?
On DK for sure.
Yeah, he's 6,700.
He's got a questionable tag, too.
But he was still limited in practice on a short week. Like, he didn't miss one day of practice. So I don't think there's anything that we've seen that he's not going to be playing.
I do think that game could go very low scoring.
You just said you were going with DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, because he's still going to get 10 targets.
All right. I mean, I just think at 6,700, it's just a really good spot for.
He is the quarterback 1 in fantasy on the year, even though he sucks.
Yeah. And he's at home, too. I mean, this is not like on the road.
Well, he was incredible in that last game. I mean, that was sensational.
Dropping dimes.
He's been a top 6 quarterback on the week in 6 straight games.
Yeah.
6,700 for Rodgers is insane.
Yeah. I mean, last time we were all in on Rodgers, it was against the 49ers last year. That didn't go well, but I really like him on DK this week.
That's not true. I think we all played him against the Colts, right?
I don't know. Not that it matters. Kaepernick, if it weren't for the weather, he would be in play on DK. He's really expensive on FanDuel. I don't think you have to go with like Barkley or Paxton on DK because of the price range of salaries. I will say, though, on FanDuel, you can make some really nice teams with Barkley as your QB. And he did look good last week.
Color me a non-believer.
I think I would run him. I think if he was 5,000, but at 6,000, I'm just not cheap enough.
All right.
I think Stafford is just the play on FanDuel though.
Okay.
I 8,300. Just run it.
No, I'd rather play Wilson.
Definitely not for me.
Concerns on Stafford are that he's gone 7 straight games and he has one without hitting 280 passing yards. And the Saints defense has actually been competent for like about the last month and a half.
His schedule has been tough though, like the past 6 games.
Right. You're right. I don't know. I mean,
first 3 games where he just went ham, they were like the easiest games in the world. Indy, Green Bay, and I forget or Tennessee, I think was the other team.
Yeah. I mean, does the Lions offense look to you though like an offense that can really go light up a defense right now?
No, but they'll pass a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
Anquan Bolden will do it 10 yards at a time.
Bolden is 5K on FanDuel. I think he's like a legit play on FanDuel potentially.
Hey, if you want to play Le'Veon and DJ and Breeze and one big stud wide receiver, you're looking at guys like Bolden.
Yeah.
All right.
Bolden has 9 targets in back-to-back games, and he's their number 1 red zone target.
Yeah, he's a thing.
You've got some expensive quarterbacks like Roethlisberger. You've got Tom Brady, Philip Rivers. Like, you've got some expensive quarterbacks I don't think people are going to be paying attention to. Like, is anyone going to be rostering Tom Brady this week? It seems like he's kind of flying under the radar again. So
the one no one's going to have who should be like 20% is Big Ben, but he'll be underowned because of the Saints-Lions game and because of Kaepernick.
So what's your take on Brady versus Big Ben?
Definitely Ben for me.
Definitely Ben. I want to build. I saw Sammy tweeting about it earlier. I want to build some Steelers onslaughts.
Mm-hmm.
I have respect for the Giants defense for sure, but I mean the Steelers offense is pretty predictable in terms of who's going to get the ball, and Ben has he's got 3+ touchdown passes in 7 straight home games. And there's a high total. You can definitely build lineups with Ben and Le'Veon and AB in them, because I think that there is enough value this week. What do you guys think about? I guess we'll get to tight ends eventually, but what do you guys think about Ladarius Green? To me, he's really tempting.
Yep, I think on
as a tournament play, of course.
I think on DraftKings, him and Josh Hill, I'm looking at them both in cash, honestly. Because, Silva, you made this point on Twitter that I don't know who made it first, but they're not asking him to block.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Davis. Go ahead. You made it before Silva
I
did.
noticed the same thing after the first game is he's not in there to pass or run block at all. When he's out there, he's running routes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why last week was a good spot for him, because the week before they were just running the ball.
Yeah, I played him. I played him on some Thanksgiving teams.
Awesome, man. That's really that's great.
Hey, thanks, David.
Who else was on those Ladarius Green teams, Davis? We really want to know.
Oh, I just straight Steelers onslaught.
Nice. I do like Hill over. I mean, it did seem like last week Hill became the guy.
Played 65% of the snaps. John Phillips was used as the blocking tight end, and Fleener hardly played at all.
Screw Fleener. Screw that guy. All right, we'll get to the tight end in a second. Let's get to running back. You mentioned Sammy. He was talking about theoretically, would you want to play Theo Riddick? I think Theo Riddick is a decent tournament plays. What would be your thoughts about Theo, Davis?
I think he's one of the most interesting plays of the week. I think he's not really in consideration on FanDuel for cash games, but I think if you think about him like a wide receiver on DraftKings, like a guy you would play in your flex, I think he becomes probably the most attractive Lions option, because you're basically looking at a guy who you project in between 7 and 10 targets, and his rushing output has been so variable this season. It could go anywhere from like 2 rush attempts to like 13 or 15 rushing attempts. And it's really hard to project on a micro level. But I think for 5,800, I think he's absolutely a guy you can consider if you have 3 other wide receivers that you like.
Yeah. I mean, I like him. DJ versus Lev Bell, Tuttle. Who you got?
It's going to decide the week.
DJ.
Yeah.
Evan?
DJ, but play both if you can.
Play both on FanDuel 100%, yes. On DraftKings, you have to choose, I think.
Do you, though?
You have if you play like a 6K quarterback and DJ and Bell, you have 4,000 left per roster slot. Add in a cheap defense, add in a cheap tight end. It's like 4,700 per roster slot. So you're rostering like Tyreek Hill, Dorial Green Beckham, Jeremy Hill, and like a 5K-ish wide receiver.
Is 4K? I think there's enough wide receiver value that you can definitely play both on DK.
I think you can. I don't think it's impossible.
And I'd rather play those 2 guys than we mentioned those 4 wide receivers. Like, I don't know where to go with those 4 wide receivers. Really, it's a toss up for me with their matchup.
I'm curious what Evan thinks about those top 4 wide receivers.
Hold on. We'll get to receivers in a second. Hold on. As far as the other running backs, Jordan Howard, obviously in a very good spot. Does weather help him, Evan?
Well, he was talking to reporters today, and he said he's never played a game in the snow. But
cool.
From the way that he runs, I would think that he would be good in the snow because he's a very downhill, no nonsense sort of runner.
Well, he went to UAB, so he wouldn't have seen the snow very often.
Right.
He went to UAB and then did he transfer
to Indiana?
Yep. Yeah, didn't he go to Indiana?
I mean, they've got snow in Indiana.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he never played a game in the snow, considering we only played 1 year at Indiana, so he must have got lucky.
Okay. Tuttle, what's your take on Jordan Howard?
Yeah, I think he's a solid play. I don't think you're like on FanDuel. We already mentioned David Johnson and Lev Bell just forced them in, but he would probably be that third guy if
you don't think it's Melvin as the third guy.
Yeah, Melvin's definitely in play. I think
he's in play, but I think I'd go Howard over Melvin.
All right,
I'm over Melvin right now.
Okay,
I
want to get Evan's take real quick because Evan has been on record on the show saying that front seven for Tampa Bay is overrated. And last week, I was just cursing you just because I needed a vent to someone. It's not that you even said like they're overrated last week. It was like a couple weeks ago. But I was like, oh, overrated. Oh, they're not over. There's 5 points. Like I was so upset with this Seattle performance. And they looked good.
So was I.
They looked good. Like Russ didn't have any chance to do anything.
Nope.
So what's your take on this front seven then against the Chargers?
I mean, the front seven is healthy now. You know, it was really banged up for a long time. But, you know, it came together on Sunday, you know. So, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's strong, you know. It is definitely good enough to exploit a bad offensive line for Seattle.
So bad, that offensive line.
How are the Buccaneers going to respond, like, after this huge win, now going all the way across the country to San Diego to face a pretty good team who does have a healthy and solid offensive line right now? I mean, I like the Chargers offense, period, this week. I think that Gates is a really good bet to bounce back.
Oh, yeah. Narrative.
Especially without Tyrell Williams.
Tyrell practiced today with the brace on his shoulder and said he felt fine.
He'll be out there, I think. I don't know about his effectiveness.
Yeah.
But
do I get the mea culpa from you, David, for Tyrell? Can I get that real quick?
It's a forward-thinking show, Davis. I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about.
All right, cool.
Melvin Gordon is a heavy workload running back as a home favorite. So I think that any time that we have a guy like in a position like that, he at least deserves some consideration.
Can I give a hot take?
Yeah.
Like a guy to roster on like one of like 5,000 lineups.
Doug Martin outscores Melvin Gordon.
Love it.
Ooh.
I mean, I don't actually love it. I think it's a bad take, but I love you giving the takes.
All right.
How about LeGarrette Blount's price down to 6,600 on FanDuel?
That's nuts.
Nah. And on FanDuel, if I'm going cheap, it's Jeremy Hill. Because
we should probably talk through Jeremy Hill a little bit more rather than just assuming that people are going to play him on DraftKings. Like,
I do want to hear some takes on him. He
caught 6 passes last week.
And that's not going to happen, though.
I know, but
I think it could because he even left the last game with a little bit of an ankle injury. And yeah, Rex Burkhead played a lot, but the number one thing I wanted to see from them was an insistence that Hill would be used that way. And 100% we saw he will be used at least some of the time as a passing down back.
And Baltimore, I mean, we knew how tough they were going to be against the run.
Mm-hmm.
So
12.1 of his 14.2 DraftKings points were receiving.
Right.
LOLs. Yeah,
but if you make it 8 of them come on the ground and 6 of them come through the air, he pays off.
And so he's getting passing down work, and we know about his touchdown equity. Like if they have the ball close, it's not going to be Rex Burkhead. Knock on wood.
No, it's going to be Tyler Eifert.
It might be a little screen pass to Eifert. which I'd be fine with. But I like Jeremy Hill this week as a cheap guy on FanDuel, and I definitely think he's in play if you want to go high price for a wide receiver on DraftKings. Like he feels like a really safe option on DK.
Yeah, they were using Rex Burkhead late in the game, and he piled up a bunch of snaps at that point. But I mean, they weren't like calling plays to get the ball to Rex Burkhead, and that was a game where they trailed the entire time. Like right now, do you think that the Eagles' offense looks like it's capable of running up a lead against Cincinnati? I don't think so, man. I mean, this should be a positive game for Jeremy Hill. So I'm with you. I like him.
Yeah. All right. Another DK guy, because I think we know what we're doing on FanDuel. Another DK guy, Dion Lewis. He's 3,800, and he's been getting more and more snaps every week.
The only Patriot
I actually don't hate that. That's not like a terrible take.
Thank you. I mean,
it's an okay take.
It's a 0.02, but he had 6 rushes for 24 yards, but did have 4 catches on 7 targets last week. Like, we know what his role was before he got hurt. So if he continues to play more snaps, they're going to call some plays for him. I like Dion Lewis. Silva, you down with that?
I mean, I wish that he had, the passing game role all to himself. I mean, and we discussed it. We discussed this with James White last week. They're basically used in very similar roles, and they split that rotational role.
Yeah.
But Dion Lewis is a dynamic playmaker. When he's been in, they've been trying to get the ball to him more so than when James White has been in. The Patriots trying to get the ball to him. So I mean, when he's in, they try to get him the ball. I mean, he break big plays.
He's the Ladarius Green of running backs. They're valuable snaps. You can't just look at a percentage of snaps with him.
And before you guys kill me, James Starks is 4,400 on
DK. That's just why.
He got 17,
why did you have to? Why did you have
rushes
to,
last week? If Rodgers is hurt, like you said, Tuttle, they might run a little bit more. And
there's coach speak against giving Starks that many carries. They've been saying that they want to get C-Mike and Ty Montgomery more involved.
5 catches the past 2 games. The past 2 games for Starks.
I think 17. They don't want to go. They don't want to give Starks even over 15 touches a game.
They never have in the entirety of his career.
Yeah, that's not what he does. They don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. You'll see a lot more Montgomery and C-Mike this week.
Montgomery been in the running back meetings.
I think that if you're in a season-long league and you're really, really desperate to use someone in a PPR league, like a 16-teamer, you can consider James.
It's good advice, Evan. It's good advice.
Thanks, Evan. Let's move on to wide receiver. We got to you got to rank the top 4 wide receivers, 1 through 4. Price does not matter. So you got Brown, Odell, Evans, and Julio. Tuttle, we'll start with you. 1 through 4, who you got?
Julio, AB, Evans, Odell.
Davis?
Evans, Brown, Julio, Odell. With Odell, a pretty clear 4. I think the first 3 I've projected all within 1.5 points of one another.
Silva?
Just purely in terms of upside for this week, I'm going to go with Julio, number 1. I'm going to go with Mike Evans, number 2, AB 3, and Odell 4.
Yeah. Okay, I'll put Odell 4. I'll go AB 1, though. I'll go Evans 2 and Julio 3.
Oh, I'm on the same side as David.
I know, and I didn't want to say this because I knew that was going to be the first thing that people would say. He's on the same, but I agree. There's a certain level of inconsistency there that's not there with Evans and Antonio Brown. With Julio,
for sure.
Taylor Gabriel, dude, he's the super weapon. I don't know how you can.
I'm not ready to knight Taylor Gabriel, but we've seen a few games this season where he just has not produced.
Sahil is such a god. He played Taylor Gabriel in a 5K queue last week.
This is what Anton Smith did last year.
It is.
It's like the exact same thing.
It's like Ted Ginn all over again.
It's like Bilal Powell. All right,
Okay.
let's talk about the.
Is that how you remember it, Dave?
Oh, that was great.
Let's talk about FanDuel because it's definitely different, right? Because like Duro Green Beckham, he feels pretty safe on DraftKings. He doesn't feel that safe on FanDuel where there's no flex spot and ranges of salaries are a little bit differently. Tuttle, how do you compare the two sites when it comes to wide receivers this week?
Yeah, I think you are looking kind of a little bit more mid-range on FanDuel, and that's fine because I think there's some pretty decent options there. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Edelman's price has changed at all on FanDuel, and he's a guy that's going to continue to see, 10 to 15 targets a game.
Yeah, he's 6,600. Golden Tate is 5,900. Like they just didn't even care.
Right. They don't even bother with these guys.
Right.
And so I think that's definitely the route you're going to take is kind of piling on some of these more mid-ranged or low to medium range guys.
Right. Silva, what's your take on Tyreek Hill? Because he's in play on both sides, but obviously people are going to be chasing points. Do you want to chase points with them?
I mean, this is an up-tempo game. Teams that face the Falcons tend to throw more than they usually do. So I like him from that aspect. I think it's worth mentioning that Jeremy Maclin may play.
Right. And
Tyreek Hill's 3-week window here has kind of coincided with Jeremy Maclin being out of the lineup. So, I view him as like a volatile guy that, like, if I want to game stack this game, I'm looking at guys like him or Taylor Gabriel. But I don't really want to use a guy like that in cash personally. I love him as a player for sure.
I think the two best Chiefs plays are Travis Kelce and Cairo Santos.
Well, Cairo every week.
It's lit.
I agree with that.
It's lit. All right.
Tyreek is a good cash play on DraftKings.
Is he though? If Maclin plays, would you say the same thing, Davis?
No, but the beat writer said he's about a week away. Okay. They think.
If Maclin doesn't play, I actually think he's probably finding cash on both sides.
Yeah. Well, it's just he's used like a gadget guy, but with a little bit of upside because you get the return equity, and they normally take 2 deep shots to him a game.
He's so fast. You have to think after last week they're going to be trying to get the ball to him a little bit more as well.
No, I think that's fish thinking. But I think if you can just project him on what we've seen him do in games where he doesn't have 3 touchdowns, he still is a fine cash play. Like, even if that game against the Broncos didn't happen and he just had like 9 targets, I think he'd still be a play.
With Maclin out, he's averaging 8.7 touches per game.
Yeah. It's good.
All right. Other wide receiving options that you guys like?
Well, Michael Thomas, I think we got to talk about him. Like, he is obviously...
And Brandon Cooks, because there's definitely the squeaky wheel theorem.
No, it's already happening. Like, the fantasy aces ownership percentages, Cooks is more owned than Thomas, which just to me reeks of fancy play syndrome. People love to make the advanced play, but I don't know. Like, if you just look at the situation, like, Thomas is the better player. He has a more consistent role. Like, he scores more fantasy points on average, and he's just better. So I think you should just take Thomas instead.
Do you know what their price tags were on fantasy aces?
I do not.
Yeah,
because I'm wondering if
you kind of have to know that though to compare. Like,
I'm looking at it now. Cooks is 16% owned, 5,100. Michael Thomas is $500 more,
and that is kind of significant on aces where it's
half owned.
It's real tight salary. All right,
but I think it shows that people aren't just piling on Michael Thomas though, which I kind of expected would be the case.
Packers receiving options:
Adams, Nelson, Cobb, in that order. Adams, viable cash play. Nelson seems fine for tournaments. He's getting a lot of volume, but Adams is the guy for me.
Yeah, he's in a really good spot. Silva, would you take Adams over Hopkins?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. How crazy is that? That's like...
He's got a competent quarterback.
Yeah. He's got a quarterback with his own tent on the sidelines.
All right. Jarvis Landry has just been terrible. He's been
I'm so done with Jarvis Landry.
Absolutely terrible. But Devontae Parker hasn't practiced at all this week.
I think this is a sneaky good spot for him.
Agreed.
I mean, they're not going to be able to run. So there's 100% chance that the Dolphins just don't do anything at all offensively.
Right.
But if they actually move the ball at all, it'll be through Landry.
Yep. It's like a funnel spot.
Yeah.
And the Ravens have really struggled in the slot.
Yep.
So I think he's very viable on DraftKings.
All right, last question before we create a FanDuel lineup, then move on to tight end. Bounce back spot for average Amari?
Yeah, that most definitely. Total for that game is pretty good. I think he's like definitively a play.
Evan?
He's been I don't know if this is anecdotal. I haven't looked at it that closely, but he's been fairly tough to predict this year, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He's been a spiked week producer.
Yeah, which is not something you want from a guy that you're spending, $8,000.
Right, and but he has 4 catches in every game this year, at least 4 catches. So he's got to hit splash plays, or else he's going to hurt you.
Yep.
Eli, like anybody else, Eli Rogers is 3,900 against the Giants.
I can't believe I'm about to play Dorial Green Beckham. This is absurd.
Dorial Green Beckham. Welcome to Week 13, where Dorial Green Beckham and Marquise Wilson are the chalk plays on DraftKings.
So bad.
That's what it is. All right, let's move on to a FanDuel lineup. And this time, Davis, you get to pick the quarterback.
All right. I wanted to pick the running backs.
Or if you want to pick the running back, you can. I just thought you might pick the alpha play and pick the quarterback.
No, give me DJ. I want to make a DJ Bell team because I don't have my cash team solved yet. I don't think.
You should just tweet it out with one person missing with your dog in the picture.
Well, anyone who tailed me last week lost 100%. So,
all right. So he wants to go a DJ Bell team. We will accommodate him, and that means that I get to play Matt Barkley at 6K.
No.
What?
No.
You said you wanted your thing.
Don't do this.
Here's the thing. You don't even have
to on FanDuel.
You don't have to, but you can.
You can still actually play like a good quarterback.
Please don't.
Let's we're gonna let Silva pick the quarterback, I think.
Barkley.
I mean, I would pick Russ.
We already went Russ.
I mean, I'm not picking Barkley.
I know that.
I would pick Russ too.
No, we've already picked Russ. We got to go somewhere different.
Okay.
Let's go Russ. Let's go Russ again. Or let's go Kaepernick. Let's have some fun.
Or the other guy in that lineup, Matt Barkley or Paxton Lynch.
Please don't make me take Matt
Paxton
Barkley.
Lynch.
I cannot be associated with this. Kaepernick. Let's do Kaepernick.
Let's go Orlovsky.
Orlovsky and Cash.
We're not going Kaepernick.
Okay, so I think we can all agree we'll just go Russ.
Yeah, well, let's just go Russ.
Kitchen's outvoted.
You guys are the worst.
Yeah, I'll make that my play. That can be my play.
All right, so Kitchen, now you can choose somebody.
All right, I'll go wide receiver, and we'll go Jarvis Landry.
What? Why?
FanDuel?
Yeah, whatever. You can only fight David for so long. Just let him have it.
All you have to do is let me go
I'm not
Barkley.
going to hate it.
You could have played whoever.
All right, Silva.
We need punts, so we'll go with Vernon Davis.
And I think we can just automatically pencil in Jaguars defense for 4,000.
Agree. Paxton Lynch took 6 sacks against Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, if you throw Cairo in at 4,700, that leaves an average of 7,050, and Davis.
I'm taking Michael Thomas. So do we just pair him Doug Baldwin and Russ again?
Let's do it.
Doug Baldwin's 6,900. So that means if you wanted to if you wanted to upgrade Landry, you could to Devontae Adams. Let's do that. That's a solid lineup. This is like a very chalky cash lineup. You've got Russ Wilson, DJ, Lev Bell, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, Doug Baldwin, Vernon Davis. I put Mason Crosby, but any $4,600 or less kicker will work, and then Jaguars defense.
Yeah, that's a good lineup.
It is a good lineup, but if you wanted to upgrade even more, you could upgrade Baldwin to a sexy Mike Evans or Julio Jones, and then go Barkley.
No.
Yeah, cool. David, you gotta stop.
Like for tournaments, would you rather have Russ Wilson and Michael Thomas or Barkley and your choice of
definitely
Evans
the one without Barkley
or Julio?
Yeah, I mean, I stop once I hear Barkley.
He should have had 4 touchdowns last week.
Cool.
Okay. All right. This is part of the show where my brand is defending the guy. I mean, I did this last week. And Tuttle, you made fun of me for me saying Matt Barkley is going to throw for 3 touchdowns and over 300 yards.
Bryce Petty and cash.
David, to his credit, is true to the brand. He did play Bryce Petty in the
You already said this twice already.
I
also
can't
played
believe
Barkley. My highest scoring lineup last week was a Barkley lineup on DraftKings. That's how bad all my other teams were because I went so hard on Seahawks. And now we're going back to Seahawks.
Marcus Wilson drops, costing you millions, fella.
Now we're going back to it cost me $2 million. And now we're going back to Seahawks.
I could have $1 million question.
$1 million question.
Shout out to Mark Gindy. All right, real quick, tight ends. We got Vernon Davis. Who are the other options?
Ladarius, Josh Hill. If you're spending up, Graham and Eifert, and Fedorowicz. If you
Kelsey.
Kelsey got lucky with that last fourth quarter drive and then overtime last week.
Antonio Gates gets in the paint this week.
He does.
Ooh, there you go.
I like the Gates pick.
I don't like it.
Okay.
Vance?
Recency bias at its finest.
I got one for you. Vance will make you dance. This is a Soccer Dave original. Vance
Solid play.
This week.
Solid play.
Yeah, people are really on Vance.
David, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to list DraftKings point totals for a $4,100 player. Three of the last 4 weeks: 13.3, 18.5, 16.3.
Yeah.
Who is that player?
Oh, it's Lance Kendricks.
It's Antonio Gates.
Oh, Lance Kendricks. Didn't he ball out last week?
I think he got a touchdown.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, I think Lance Kendricks is in play, unfortunately.
Actually, yeah, I want to.
No, Goff and bad weather. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I do want to hear because I know New England's just terrible against the pass, especially interior. Tavon Austin's not playing this week, or is looking doubtful. Who do they go to? Who's going to play the slot?
Probably Pharaoh Cooper.
Oh, that guy was lit in college.
South Carolina, raise up.
Yeah, those Gamecocks.
All right, so that's how we'll end it. Special thanks to everyone that listened. I will try to get this uploaded ASAP as soon as possible and figure out. This was not my fault this week. I just want to say that. Was not my fault this week.
Mm-hmm.
It was somebody else's fault. Like software, I don't know. But it just like randomly broadcast.
It was definitely someone else's fault, and everyone who listens to the show definitely believes that.
Cool. All right. Thanks to Evan Silva. You can check out his matchups column on rotoworld.com. Thanks to Tuttle. You can check out Tuttle's takes and Davis Mattek, his automatic absolutes. And if you don't do anything at night, you can check out the Fantasy Insiders show on SiriusXM Fantasy. That's 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. They gave us the good spots. We'll see you next week, week 14, for the Swolecast here on Fantasy Insiders. We'll check you later.